time to catch all the hits, the bangs, and the flops. It's a Super Bowl season driving in full gear. ABC's big party, the 25th year. We gotta get ready, we gotta get right, 'cause the Bears and the Eagles are coming on tonight. So get ready. I mean, get ready. Are you ready for some football? A Monday night party. We got Frank and Al and Dan. They're gonna get it kick-started. Lynn and the crew's all set. The crowd is tight, 'cause all my rowdy friends are back for Monday night.
A familiar skyline, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, on a sparkling night here in Philadelphia. A perfect night for football. Temperature near 70 degrees, little or no wind. A capacity crowd anticipated at Veterans Stadium as the Philadelphia Eagles open their home schedule against the Chicago Bears. They do it on Monday night. Hello again, everyone. Frank Gifford with Al Michaels and Dan Deerdorf. Happy you're with us. We have a good one for you tonight. The Eagles, they lost their opener against the Giants 28-23, and like a lot of teams early in the season, particularly this year with the free agency, they have a lot of questions to be answered. But for the Eagles, the most compelling one surrounds their quarterback, Randall Cunningham, who is coming off a season-ending injury, his second in 3 years. Last year, he missed 12 games, and the Eagles will need him if they're going to go back to the playoffs. For Chicago, they made a lot of changes also. They had to make them on offense. They were 28th and last a year ago on offense. But they have made some changes, and you get the feeling as you look at this Bear team, Al Michaels, that all of a sudden is taking on the shape and the molding of the new head coach, Dave Wannstedt. That can't be all bad.
They are, Frank. And, you know, this team has been around since the National Football League started in 1920, but the Bear calendar may as well read 2 AD, meaning after Ditka. When Mike left in 1992, they were old and slow. Right now, they are a lot younger and a lot quicker. And the Dave Wannstedt team features defense. In the 17 games in which he's been the head coach, the Chicago Bears have not allowed more than 2 touchdowns in any one game. And last year, with no offense, they still won 7 games. Any offense at all, this team could win 9 or 10 and work their way into the playoffs. The new quarterback is Eric Kramer. The new running back is Lewis Tillman. And tonight they go against the Philadelphia Eagles, coming off that 5-point loss up at the Meadowlands last week to the New York Giants, Sam.
3 definite areas, Al, in which they have to improve, the Philadelphia Eagles. One is on special teams. They made a couple mistakes early, and right away they're trailing the New York Giants 14-0. Secondly, they've got to run the football. They ran for 78 yards last week. Not a great number, but it's even worse when you consider that Randall Cunningham was their leading rusher, getting 35 of those 78 yards. And then we come to Randall Cunningham himself. Even though he had almost 350 yards passing, he missed a lot of open receivers, and more importantly, when he was out of the pocket running with the football, by Randall's own admission, he was running to not get hurt. If the Eagles are to go very far, Randall Cunningham, as hard as it is, has to put those thoughts out of his head.
Randall Cunningham, hurt on opening day in 91. Played the whole season in 92, only a quarter of the year last year. Mitch Berger, the rookie from Colorado, who is their punter and kickoff man. He'll put it in the air. And back deep, Curtis Conway. And it's a boomer, and despite the 30-yard line and a 1-inch tee, that's 9 yards into the end zone. Last year, that would have been at least 4 yards out of the end zone. Maybe more with the higher tee. Here come the Chicago Bears, offensively led by Eric Kramer, who had been on and off the bench in Detroit for a number of seasons. Signed him to a lucrative contract in the offseason. Tillman comes over from the Giants. Hodge is the ex-Steeler. Graham and Conway, the wideouts. Gedney scored 2 TDs last week. Peck, the ex-Seahawk. Forts, Fontenot, Lewinberg, James Big Cat Williams, the former defensive tackle, now the offensive tackle. Kramer to the air, checks off, and the pass is dropped at the 22-yard line. He looked one way, went to a secondary receiver, but Tillman couldn't hold on, covered by William Thomas. The Eagle defense with Joyner gone and Simmons gone, Fuller, Harmon. The Fridge plays against his ex-mates, and Greg Townsend, the ex-Raider. Romanowski, the former 49er. Evans in the middle, and William Thomas becoming a big play man. McMillan and Allen are the corners. Eric, a Pro Bowler. Zordich, the ex-Cardinal. Jackson, the ex-Giant. So a lot of changes defensively for Philadelphia. A lot of changes offensively for the Bears. On 2nd and 10, Kramer again fires, sideline, catch made. Curtis Conway taken down after a gain of 7. The tackle is made by Mark McMillan. It'll set up a 3rd down and 3. A lot of people were shocked with Mike Shula sending in the play into the helmet headset for Dave Wanstead's Bears. People surprised that the Bears would go for Kramer, but they looked at tape and film of a lot of quarterbacks, of the eligible ones, and they felt he was the guy to guide the offense that Wanstead and Norv Turner's brother Ron, the offensive coordinator, wants to put in. 3rd and a short 3, and the pass is too high, intended for Merrill Hodge out on the flat, so it's 3 and out for the Bears.
It was rather an exhausting look, too. You mentioned they looked at the tapes of Eric Kramer. They looked at every available quarterback. They knew they were going to make the move as we look at defensive coordinator Bud Carson for the Philadelphia Eagles, but they determined Kramer was their man, and certainly he had a very fine day in the opening game against Tampa Bay.
Chris Gardocki gets it away quickly. It's taken at the 31 by Jeff Seidner. A flag goes down as Jeff, who muffed the punt in his 10th season out of the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and Eagles since '85. Walker and Joseph, the running backs. Barnett and Williams, the wideouts. Bavaro, the tight end. And up front of those 5, you've got 3 number 1 draft choices, including the rookie Bernard Williams. A blitz, and Herschel Walker on the ground picks up 1 up to the 26-yard line. Ron Cox makes the stop. Chicago now, defensively. A unit that played brilliantly last season. Armstrong, Simpson, Zorich, and Spellman. Remember, Dent gone and McMichael gone. Cox, Dante Jones really emerged last year in the middle. And Wolford with Lincoln, the corners. Gale and Carrier are the safeties. On 2nd and 9, James Joseph, he picks only a couple. Up to the 28-yard line. Dante Jones makes the stop, and this is the toughest crowd in sports. They're already booing the play selection.
Well, they know they can't win without a running game, and I touched on it at the top of the show. Joseph last week ran the ball 3 times for 3 yards. Walker ran it 7 times for 16 yards. Hebron was the best of the ball carriers. 10 carries for 24 yards.
Well,
Randall,
Cunningham.
They cannot win if Randall Cunningham has to be their leading rusher. They can't do it.
On 3rd and 7, flags down. There was movement in the line. The catch is made. It's close to a 1st down. The ball is fumbled. It is picked up by Chicago.
Penalty, because this was clearly a fumble. Victor Bailey had the ball knocked loose. Donnell Wolford came in there, jarred the ball loose, and a very, very big break for Philadelphia early.
On 3rd and 2, Cunningham to the air, under pressure, steps up, throws to nobody. The closest receiver was Victor Bailey.
Well, that could have been intended for James Joseph. You're right, Al. Randall opens up pretty much where he left off last week, and he was very erratic in picking out his receivers. Let's take a look at Trace Armstrong, the leading sacker for the Bears a year ago. And doing a pretty good job is Roderick Thompson on Armstrong.
Armstrong was the leading sacker of the Bears last year, and he's gone from the kid on the block to the elder statesman.
Mitch Berger's punt is fair caught by Tom Waddle at the 23-yard line. So each team 3 and out, 2 minutes and 30 in terms of the resumption of the baseball season.
Seems hard to imagine, but looks like the end is near.
Chicago has it at the 23-yard line. 1st and 10, no score, 12:23 remaining in the opening quarter. Gedney in motion. It's the tailback, Tillman. He picks up about 4. Funny thing about Tillman, as he backed up Rodney Hampton in New York, and Hampton is now out for about 2 or 3 weeks with a kidney problem. ABC's Monday Night Football is being brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood Age. 2nd and 7 from the 25-yard line. Tillman again up to the 30-yard line. He's tackled by William Thomas. It'll be 3rd down and about 3.
Tillman, of course, an unrestricted free agent coming here after filling in real well for Rodney Hampton of the Giants a year ago, got a lot of people's attention. He's been around for a while with the Giants, 5 years, and all of a sudden the Bears needed someone to replace the retiring Neil Armstrong, and they picked up Louis Tillman. But his best game of his career was against these Eagles a year ago this coming October when he gained 169 yards.
Third and a short 3 from the 30. On a draw, Merrill Hodge, and there's the game's initial first down. He takes it up to the 37-yard line, so they have a new quarterback, new top running back, new fullback as well.
And a revamped offensive line as well. One of the big problems with the Bears, I always thought, was that they were undersized. They weren't a big physical team on the line of scrimmage. Now with the addition of Andy Heck at left tackle, who's a 300-pounder, Big Cat Williams on the right side there, number 71, is 330. Lundberg at 290, Bortz in there at 290. It's a much more physical Chicago Bear offensive line than in the last several years.
Hodge in motion. Kramer over the middle. He got great protection. And Jeff Graham, another newcomer. He, like Hodge, a former Steeler, tackled by Romanowski and Zordich, up at the 50 and a first down.
If there is a big question mark with the Bears, it still has to be about their wide receivers. Jeff Graham came over from the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was fairly successful there in his first 3 years. Has the size, has the potential, but he has not realized that potential certainly yet. On the other side, it's Curtis Conway, a first-round draft pick from a year ago. But the leading receiver, Tom Waddle, a year ago, is now the third wide receiver. So they still have a lot of question marks on those outside receivers.
Tillman probes the middle, picks up close to 5, takes it to the 44. Romanowski, the former 49er, makes the stop. It'll be 2nd and 5. Boy, in this era of free agency, no matter whose name you mention, you're always saying former something.
There's a lot of F's. You're either a former or a free agent. It's these guys have, well, of course, it's been an unprecedented year. There's a former Chicago Bear and still a household word. William, the refrigerator, Perry.
And in good shape.
Oh, he's been a big plus for these Eagles. He's improved their run defense in a huge way.
And I mean that in many ways.
2nd and 5, and it's tipped and it is incomplete. Byron Evans tipping it, the linebacker.
We were down the field earlier and we were talking to the fridge, and what a nice guy he is too. He couldn't be better. And I looked at him. He is a normo. And I said to Dan, how do you ever block a guy like this? You had the right answer.
You don't. You can't take him off the line of scrimmage. Good play there by Byron Evans, moving over in front of the football. You look at the center of gravity that William Perry possesses. He's out on passing plays, but on the run, 1st and 2nd down, he's tough.
3rd down and 5. Kramer, and it's incomplete. Good defense that time. Mark Cook, the intended receiver, and Greg Jackson, the former Giant, got his hand in there.
One of the 2 new safeties for the Philadelphia Eagles as the Bears try to work Marv Cook into this offense. He had a couple of great years with New England and fell off last year under Bill Parcells, who would rather have a bigger blocking type tight end. But he is a good receiver, and you saw the play by the former Giant, Greg Jackson. Good coverage, but they respect Cook. They covered him with a safety man.
Gardocki, one of the very best. His gross average has not been necessarily great, but his net average terrific. There's a flag down. The catch is made at the 16-yard line. By
penalty, even though they're starting inside their own 20, clear back at the 17-yard line.
And Cunningham retreats on 1st down. The catch is made by Calvin Williams, and it's an 11-yard pickup and a 1st down. Donnell Wolford with the coverage.
Tell you one thing, they show an awful lot of respect for Chris Gardocki, the Bears punter, by declining a 10-yard penalty and starting out inside your own 20.
Williams, who really developed last year with the injury to Fred Barnett. He was the go-to man last week against the Giants. Could be that again tonight. He does not have the blazing speed, but he has respectable speed and good moves, and a good quick move to the outside, and Cunningham had it right there.
That's Philadelphia's first down. Cunningham, fake draw, buys time, goes deep, and too deep, and the coverage was good. They look for a flag and don't get it. Donnell Wolford, one of the very best, covering Fred Barnett, coming back after major knee surgery and looking very good.
All week long, all the Bear defensive backs have talked among themselves, follow the Eagle receivers no matter where they go, because and there's a lot of contact there. Boy, a good right elbow thrown by Donnell Wolford. Boy, Freddie Barnett wants the call, and he could have gotten it. That's a risky play by Wolford, don't you think, Frank?
Oh, yeah, we've seen a lot less than that called through the preseason and in the opening regular season first game.
Well, Wolford's lucky he got away with that. That could have been called.
It was subtle enough to get it by the officials as the catch is made by Fred Barnett. And Barnett picks up 7, and if you watch Fred Barnett through preseason and last week and thus far tonight, you'd never know this guy had major knee surgery last year.
You might say, why do they keep going on Donnell Wolford? He is a Pro Bowler for a couple of years, a good man at individual man-to-man coverage. Well, he is getting single coverage tonight as they're trying to help Jeremy Lincoln on the other side, and that's where they are going to go until they get some kind of help from the part of Wolford.
Al,
They're going where the single coverage.
Your point's well made about Barnett. I can't recall ever seeing a guy come back from major surgery looking so good so quickly.
On 3rd and 2 out of a double tight end set, that's Maurice Johnson, one of the 2 tight ends. Flag is down. Enough clearly for a first down. Lincoln the tackle. No score. Herschel Walker aligns in the slot to the left. Cunningham looking, and the catch is made by Herschel Walker. And he is down initially. Contact was made. They'll stop him at the 48, and that's enough for a first down. And another flag is down from the 48-yard line. Fake screen one way, set it up the other way. James Joseph escapes an initial tackle and turns it into a big gain to the 33-yard line.
The Eagles perform this screen as well as anyone in the league, and Randall Cunningham is the very best at it. The fake screen to the left, they did it against the Giants, had the same kind of success with it. Look at Spellman again.
There he is against Williams. Now look, he gets the good lean and gets underneath, and Williams really did a nice job of not drawing the hold. He used his body weight to press Spellman into the ground, and Spellman chases the play 25 yards downfield and almost makes the tackle. A fabulous hustle by a defensive end.
And what a good-looking screen, however, for Philadelphia.
Joseph breaking the initial tackle attempt of Cox to turn it into a big gainer. And Herschel Walker takes it to the 29-yard line. Herschel, 3 years with the New Jersey Generals and 3 in Dallas and change, up to Minnesota for almost 3, and now 3 here in Philadelphia.
But if you put it all together, it would spell something like over 13,000 yards of rushing. Great physical condition still, and now they're working on Donnell Wolford on the sideline.
Walker splits wide left. Herschel lines up everywhere. It's a draw play. It's Joseph taking it to the 23. Very close to a first down on a 2nd and 6. Cox and Kane converge on the tackle.
The Eagles got a good-looking drive going. Down around on their own 17-yard line. They got in trouble against the Giants a week ago with a couple of costly errors, a fumble, a misread by a cornerback, a punt return by David Meggett. All of a sudden they were down 21-3, and they just never could come back from it.
First down, Eagles. Boy, that's a tough break for Chicago with Wolford on the bench, Keyshawn Johnson in there. We're taking out one of the best corners in the league against some fleet wide receivers, and that one is simply dropped by Fred Barnett.
And you notice that they'll be looking for Johnson with this man on the bench if they can't get him back in. Cunningham with a lot of time.
The ball was thrown back behind Fred a little bit. I'm sure Fred would have preferred it to be more in towards the body, but you're right. That guy there, 25, Keyshawn Johnson, is, I think, about to get a good going over by Randall Cunningham.
2nd and 10 to the 23. No score, late first quarter. Cunningham, the catch is made. There's Barnett. Barnett working against Keyshawn Johnson.
Oh, they'll find him. What they've done, they put Johnson over the right side, and they took Jeremy Lincoln, put him on the left side. And I'm afraid Keyshawn Johnson's going to be in for a long evening. I'm sure they'll try to help him with some extra coverage. He probably knows he's got inside help. He should have perhaps been outside a little bit of on Barnett. He didn't, and Randall Cunningham delivers.
Well, this is the area of the field where Randall has always been such a threat to take it into the end zone himself. He admitted he's been cautious, Let's see if he comes out of his shell a little bit.
Up back Joseph goes nowhere on a 1st and goal. Zeke Bratkowski is the offensive coordinator. Rich Kotite, the head coach. They each know how difficult it's been for this team to put it in on the ground. 2 rushing touchdowns over the last 13 games. 2nd and goal, double tight end set. As you look through the face mask of Herschel Walker. And it's walked in and caught by Calvin Williams. Touchdown.
He's the go-to guy for the Philadelphia Eagles. Became an outstanding receiver a year ago when Fred Barnett was injured, and fine pass by Cunningham. A little bit of a fade. Kind of strange to go to a 5-foot, 11-inch wide receiver with the fade route, but he did a good job on Jeremy Lincoln.
Well, Lincoln really didn't have any idea that the ball was thrown, and as often happens, the ball was thrown a little short. Williams reacted to it, and Lincoln had no clue where it was.
Eddie Murray, the longtime Lion, who's been bouncing around, boots it through. Touchdown, Calvin Williams, and this culminates an 83-yard, 11-play march for the Philadelphia Eagles, who lead the Chicago Bears 7-0.
Some kind of a slight concussion, Dan.
He gives the appearance of someone who's disoriented, that's for certain.
Mitch Berger sends the kick to the 9-yard line. Curtis Conway brings it back to the 30-yard line. Bears begin their next drive from there. 3:09
in Eric Kramer's passing lane. Not so sure he didn't alter Kramer's throw that time.
And good coverage by Byron Evans on the tight end, Chris Gedney. Had a couple of TD passes last week against Tampa Bay for the Bears, but Byron Evans, one of the real fine middle linebackers in this league today.
For Bud Carson's defensive unit, 2nd down and 10. And they give it to Tillman, who swings to the outside. Nice adjustment by Lewis, who brings it out to the 39-yard line. Flag down again. And a penalty-filled first quarter. Mark McMillan makes the tackle. It's coming back. It's against Chicago.
Looks like a holding call against the Bears, and Dave Wannstedt isn't seeing a whole lot go right.
Number 84 of the offense. 10 yards. Repeat, 2nd down.
Chris Gedney, the tight end, who is lined up at the wing. He's the preliminary blocker there at the point of attack. And he's looking up at the video replay board, trying to
Did I do that?
see how bad it was.
And all that bad is holding goes, but I mean, it was right in the focus of the official. It was key to the play, and it drew the flag.
Yeah, he got a hold of Bert Grossman at the very end and took him to the ground.
2nd and 20 from the 20. And it's Tillman, and Tillman with room out past the 30 up to the 33. So they get more than half of it back. It'll be 3rd and 7. Tackle made by Mark McMillan.
Now, good coordination there between Louis Tillman and Eric Kramer. There was a hot blitzer to that side. That means he's unaccounted for. He's unblocked. Bill Romanowski, you see, he's a free man, and that is up to those two to read it. They read it very effectively, and they get a nice gain out of it. That's exactly the way that play is diagrammed and practiced all week long. Good work by both those guys.
3rd and 7, 2 minutes to go in the quarter. Eagles leading 7-0. And a fumble. Recovered by Kramer. He keeps possession at the 31-yard line. But they'll have to punt. 4th down.
Didn't look like Kramer started to come out early. Let's take a look at it. No, the ball hits him right in the hands. The snap from Jerry Fontenot appeared to hit Eric Kramer right in the sweet spot, but it fell to the ground.
Gardocki kicking. Seidner is back. Fields at the 35 and gets buried back.
And Randall Cunningham coming back from the broken fibula. Jeff,
11 guys bearing down on you, not to mention 10 of your own guys running right at you as well, attempting to block. That is the highest form of concentration on the football field, is the punt return.
From the 32-yard line, it's Joseph, and he picks up a 1st down up to the 45-yard line. So an impressive beginning to this drive. Anton Davis, a nice block to spring him.
Pretty nifty work in the open field by a guy that weighs 325 pounds. Big Anton, who played right tackle for a couple of years, has made the transition to left guard. First of all, he hugs the line of scrimmage. He looks back. And then what's he do? He zeroes in on Dante Jones. Whack. Puts him right down there. That looked more like Fuzzy Thurston coming out there at 250 rather than 330.
A minute to go in the quarter. Got a lot of room here as James Joseph picks up a couple. He stopped by Ron Cox.
We haven't had Fuzzy Thurston mentioned on Monday Night Football in a while.
I like it. That's reaching back there to the Jerry Kramer days.
Darn right.
All the good old boys. But right now, I think Keyshawn Johnson better gear himself up. Keyshawn, of course, replaced Donnell Wolford, and thus far, he's been the focal point of the Eagles' passing game.
Here come Barnett and Williams, both to the same side of the field here on the bottom.
Second down and 6 from the 48-yard line. On the ground, Herschel Walker is ridden down by Joe Kane as he crosses midfield. It'll be a 3rd down and 3, and that's by a score of 7-0. At the Chicago 48-yard line, 3 receivers set to the left. Cunningham goes that way, and Herschel Walker has a first down at the Chicago 38. John Mangum with the stop.
Herschel Walker, the man who can do so many things for you, and Philadelphia takes advantage of it. They use him as a wide receiver. They'll put him in the slot. They'll use him at tight end, use him as a running back.
Remember when we first, when Herschel went to Dallas, we were talking to Paul Hackett, the offensive coordinator at the time of the Cowboys, and he was talking about Herschel and his abilities in what Hackett described as out in space. What a gifted receiver and how well he always used his body, turning the right direction. Where Herschel has probably slipped is in that area, taking the ball from the line of scrimmage. He doesn't seem to be the dominating ground attack back that he used to be, but I don't believe he's lost a step as a receiver. He's as good as he ever was.
You know, that year that he was talking about, I mean, he gained 1,500 yards rushing for Dallas, caught over 50 passes, and then, of course, subsequently went to the Minnesota Vikings and put the Dallas Cowboys on top and back into the Super Bowl with all the draft picks that they garnered from that trade.
You saw that graphic. One of those 80-plus plays came last week with a 93-yard non-scoring reception.
Second down and this is Calvin Williams with a lot of space over the middle, and he loves to roam over the middle. He did it all last season. Takes it to the 16 and a first down.
Fine concentration. That ball up in the air a little bit, but he was making sure he was coming down with it even though he got hit. He caught that ball, brought it into the chest, and a real fine effort. Watch Herschel Walker do something else that he does so well. He blocks. A good block against Kane, and good reception by Calvin Williams. Let him hug this football now. He knows he's going to get hit.
The Bears better think about tightening down the hatches a little bit right here. They don't have one of the great come-from-behind offenses.
From the 16, Randall's going to keep it. And he picks up a yard, maybe 2, tripped up by Jeremy Lincoln.
When we talked to Randall last night, he admitted to us that when he got outside the pocket, he was thinking about not getting hurt. And I can tell you from, and Frank, all our years of playing and listening to coaches, they always say, when you think about getting hurt is when you will get hurt. I don't know that Randall Cunningham can play this game any other way than the way he's always played it. And that is all out, take chances, and hope that the injuries he's had, 2 out of the last 3 years, were just fluke-type injuries and not an annual event.
Second down and 8. Great protection. He guns it. It's incomplete at the 4-yard line. The intended receiver was Mark Bavaro, and he was blanketed by Sean Gale.
Oh, and Sean Gale timed that out beautifully. Colliding with Bavaro just as the ball reached his hands, didn't draw the flag, just great timing. No way Bavaro's going to hold on to that. Got a hand in there. Really a fine defensive play by Sean Gale.
That pass could have killed somebody. That thing had some...
did not have one of your basic touches on it, did it?
That thing had some serious velocity to it.
Big play for the Bear defense here. Third down and 8 at the 14. They're already down 7-0. Cunningham retreating, protected well again, throws, and the catch is made in the back of the end zone for a touchdown.
Who else? Calvin Williams has 2 touchdowns. Pretty good start to this game for Mr. Williams. And that guy, too, Mr. Lurie.
Jeffrey Lurie, the new owner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
And an admitted unabashed fan of pro football.
And a nice investment here, $185 million worth in a dividend paid by Cunningham and Williams.
And well-thrown football by Randall Cunningham. Good move as Mark Courier was the man on the coverage. Had pretty good position.
Touchdown pass against the Giants.
Third down, goal to go. Look at that agility. That's a special right there. Jimmy Giles, the receiver.
Randall Cunningham is a ready for prime time player.
Kick. The crowd is up in Philadelphia, literally and figuratively, because they're Eagles that look sharp on 2 drives and lead 14-0.
The Bears could use Conway here on a big return. They need a spark.
And it's a short kick. Conway, 15-yard line, looking for room. Nothing but white shirts. A trio of them, led by Derek Oden.
This is a fired-up Eagles team. They took a lot of abuse after the loss to the Giants. They went through a tough week the week before their season opener with the salary cap. We'll talk about that a little later on.
Go back through the history of the league. Ralph Jones coached the Chicago Bears in 30 and 31. In his first 26 games, his teams never allowed more than 2 touchdowns, and Wanstead second on the list with 17 and counting coming into tonight. Chicago at the 26. Tillman. And he runs right into
Hello, Mr. Perry.
Former Bear. The Fridge.
Always has been and remains one of the more formidable defenders against the run in this league. Mark Ports, number 62. William Perry there did not get moved 1 centimeter off the line of scrimmage.
How many years do you think they practiced against each other in training camp, Dan?
Oh, they're good friends. They've gone fishing together. He and Bortz are really not just old teammates, but they're old friends.
2nd and 9. Tillman takes the swing pass and is tackled up at the 30-yard line. Tripped up there by Romanowski. It'll be 3rd down and 6.
Richie Kotite says that this is the best defensive team that he's had here in Philadelphia. And you'd think with all the people that they lost, but when you look at the quality of people that have come back in here, they've really upgraded themselves, he feels, at the safety position with Zordich and Jackson replacing Wes Hopkins and Andre Waters. He feels he gets a lot more range, a lot more speed. Townsend and Fuller up on the line. This is a good defensive team.
And they're fired up for right now.
3rd and 6. Waddle in motion. Kramer, pump fake, throws, tipped, incomplete.
Kramer trying to find Waddle. He was in traffic. Finally just flipped one.
Byron Evans, that's the 2nd time he's deflected a pass.
Bud Carson, the defensive coordinator, one of the best in the business. Couple of Super Bowls with Pittsburgh back in the 70s. Been around for a long time. He still gets it done.
If you don't get close to the quarterback, stay active. Look at Byron Evans concentrate. He gets popped up at the line of scrimmage by Leuenberg, but he stays alive. He stays active. He's got spring in his legs and gets up and tips it.
Chicago 4 possessions, and this is their 4th punt. Gardocki sends it down to Seidner, and Jeff Seidner breaks it into Bear territory. Seidner inside the 25, tackled at the 18 by Mangum.
And Mangum saved a touchdown big time.
Oh, what a fine move by Seidner. Saw that little gap. That's the way you return a punt for 6. Once you see it, you just throw caution to the wind and you pop the gap, and he found himself in the open field.
Well, talk about redemption. I think Jeff Seidner could be excused for celebrating because he felt that he was the GOAT of their loss last week at the Meadowlands against the Giants. Some blocking up front. 1 move. 2 moves. He almost moved himself right out of his pants.
Had to make that move back inside because of Gardocki, and Mangum was there.
Yep, good hustle by John Mangum.
Something surprised to see Randall Cunningham go right away for a big one.
From the 19, he gives it to Walker, and Herschel bursts over the left side for a gain of close to 10.
And that'll do.
That run back is something that almost never happens with Gardocki last year. His punts were returned an average of 1.4 yards per kick. A fabulous mark, but that time a 47-yard run back.
Well, the Chicago Bears haven't given up more than 20 points in a football game since opening day of last year. And they're in trouble right here.
And they better find Calvin Williams, too.
They're down 14-0 here, and they're looking at 21 real quick.
2nd and 1. Again, Wolford back in the locker room. And it's lofted incomplete. It was Barnett going to work on Keyshawn Johnson, who's taking the spot of Donnell Wolford.
Randall wanted to go to Barnett with the same fade pattern that he scored with Calvin Williams for the first touchdown. So overthrew it just a little bit. He changed that play, by the way, at the line of scrimmage. And as we look at Richie Kotite, he calls the plays. In consultation with Zeke Bratkowski, remember, kind of a controversial move a year ago. After the 5th game, he took over and started calling the plays, and he is calling them once again. He consults with Zeke Bratkowski. There's Zeke, been around for a lot of years. They were together at the Jets before they came to the Eagles.
And on 3rd down and 1, the Eagles running out of provide leverage, and Walker picks up the first down. He gets to the 7. He's next Monday. 1st and goal, Eagles to the 7. They lead 14-0, and very little room for James Joseph probing the middle for a half-yard, maybe concern.
They're getting romped at the moment.
2nd and goal. Cunningham throws. The catch is made. And backing into the end zone is Maurice Johnson for the touchdown.
Style points, that's about a 2. Effectiveness, a 10.
And the coverage, about a 1.
Yeah. He saw one official not signal TD, and that's why for a moment it looked as if he was angry, but the other was right there with the arms up.
The 2 tight ends, and Johnson was ignored in the coverage.
Another magnificent block by Herschel Walker. You saw the end result of it as Ron Cox tried to go over the top. Hey, get there any way you can.
Any way you can.
Another, though, brilliant block by Herschel Walker as he picked up the blitz. Ron Cox, number 54, is going to come. He goes high, and Herschel stays high, and that is called finishing your man off.
Eddie Murray finishes off the drive with the extra point. That's Maurice Johnson's first touchdown in 3 seasons, and with 8:01 to go in the half, it is Philadelphia 21, Chicago.
If they could call a turning point, maybe Curtis Conway can give it to them, but down 21-0 already.
Mitch Berger kicks off. The rookie from Colorado sends it to the 11-yard line, and Curtis Conway comes up through the middle and takes it to the 36. Tonight's game is very unusual in as much as the Bears normally get off to great starts. They have played very well through recent years. In September, for instance, their record since '87 is 19-7.
Contented-looking Bears.
Yeah, the weather gets a little cooler in October. They're still pretty good at 18-9.
A lot of teams will take it.
November gets a little chilly. They're only 5 over. And in December and January?
Oh, they're going to love it in Chicago.
Full hibernation. 9-19.
The first again, no expense spared. Our Monday night budget has no limits.
I don't want to hear about the Lion King. This is where the animation really
Conway
gets off
with
the
a
roost.
good reception in front of the All-Pro, Eric Allen.
We'll get to see the Lion King next week, Barry Sanders.
Detroit at Dallas next Monday night. Lions 1-1. Cowboys 2-0. 2nd and 2 after the Conway reception at the 44-yard line. Kramer can't get it away, and William Fuller, the former Oiler, sacks him. With Clyde Simmons gone, and of course the death of Jerome Brown a couple of years ago, and the changes up front, they went into the market and plucked William Fuller from the Oilers.
Former Pro Bowler with the Oilers back a couple of years ago when he had 15 sacks. That was back in '91. Still a lot of football left in this 9-year veteran.
He was working against Big Cat that time, who actually had Andy Harmon fall across the back of his feet and take him down.
The other defensive lineman, of course, is Reggie White. And too, there's another sack. But these look like the White and Brown and Simmons Eagles on this series as Bert Grossman, who comes over from San Diego, gets that sack.
Well, we call that a tackle end stunt. The tackle goes to the outside, the end loops back to the inside, and it takes some coordination on the offensive line to pick it up. Watch number 93. He goes to the outside. That's Townsend. There comes Grossman back around to the inside, and poor execution on the part of the Bears offensive line. Grossman untouched.
Here's Gardocki now, his 5th punt of the game with 6:20 to go in the half, and he angles it and sends it out of bounds.
Good kick.
Very good kick. Well, come true. Jeffrey Lurie is the new owner of the Philadelphia Eagles. It's his first home game. It's a Monday night game. It's the first time he's ever seen the Eagles play a game in Veterans Stadium, and what a first half for him.
We're just commenting on how delicate this game is. Donnell Wolford goes out of the lineup for the Bears. Keyshawn Johnson comes in. They find him on almost every important play to keep a drive alive. They found him on 2 touchdown passes. One guy could make a big difference, particularly on a fragile defense.
And now the Bears find themselves in that most difficult of positions. First of all, trying to stop the Eagles with nothing but open receivers. Here goes Freddie Barnett.
Barnett picking up blocking, comes all the way across the field and takes it to the Chicago 45-yard line. Finally run down by Joe Kane.
Frank, you talk about Donnell Wolford not being in there, but I'm not sure that that is enough to explain away a complete collapse by the Bears secondary in the way they're covering people. I mean, there are Eagles just wide open all over the football field, and this time it's Fred Barnett.
And
albeit temporarily.
Randall sends everybody out into the pattern. The catch is made along the far side. It's Fred Barnett going out of bounds at the 41-yard line. Pickup of close to 9. Another interesting thing about tonight's game, the Bears have just killed the Eagles through the years. 23-3-1 in the 27 prior regular season meetings.
And of course, the Bears own the state of Pennsylvania. Look at that record they have against the Steelers, 16-4-1. I'd like to be playing the representatives of Pennsylvania on a weekly basis. But I don't think so tonight.
2nd and 5. Walker picks up a yard, takes it to the 39-yard line. 3rd down and 4. Upcoming with Bubby Brister working the sidelines. Brister came on last year, did a nice job in relief of Cunningham, but then he too got hurt at one point. Ken O'Brien came in. The team lost 6 in a row, but they closed with a flourish, beat San Francisco in a meaningless game on the last night of the season, and now Bubby is back to number 2.
Yeah, he really came on at the end of last year. Once he got over that injury, he came back and really was the reason this team was in the playoffs until our final game. They got knocked out in the Sunday before the final game when they beat San Francisco in overtime on Monday night.
3rd and 4 for the 39-yard line. Randall with his shirt being hung on to by Trace Armstrong, gets it away incomplete.
Randall gets a mini ovation for a fine display of athleticism just to get rid of the football. Trace Armstrong, actually pretty good coverage. Here comes Armstrong with a little pressure, gets him by the shirt. Randall saves the sack.
So the Eagles to kick. Mitch Berger descended in Tom Waddle's direction.
Coming. Watch him coming. Thank you, sir.
They take the play clock all the way down to 3.
Go.
Waddle falls for a fair catch, then lets it go. And the Eagles cannot save it.
Boy, it wasn't through lack of effort.
Yeah, Al Jackson was the guy leaping up.
Boy, it was a tough choice for Waddle to let that go. He could have caught that ball outside his own 10-yard line. He took a risk, and it paid off for him, and they'll get the touchback.
Well, Jackson was the first guy that got it. Then it went to Otis Smith. And Otis Smith, I think, actually gets knocked into the end zone by his own guy. Watch Otis Smith, number 30, and he gets pushed from behind. Can you imagine that? He gets whacked from behind. Is that Derek Oden, number 58? Here's a good look at it from the goal line.
They bring it out to the 20. Kramer fires. The catch is made. Conway makes the catch. It's a little short of the first down, 2nd and inches. Chicago thus far, nothing at all offensively.
Well,
5 possessions, 5 punts.
Well, and 4 of the 5 are 3 plays and out. That's offensive depth. Down 21-0, it would really be a big morale booster if they could even get a field goal before the end of the first half.
2nd and inches. Kramer incomplete off the fingertips of Chris Gedney, who caught 2 touchdown passes from Kramer last week. Greg Jackson with the coverage. 2:41 to go in the first half.
Maybe we ought to just start with the first down instead of jumping all the way up to scoring some points.
Interesting how Richie Kotite could say this is the best defense he's had, and you think that Reggie White was here when he took over, and of course left last year. Mike Simmons, Seth Joyner, all gone.
Tillman picks up 3. That's only their 3rd first down and their first of this quarter with 2:30 remaining in the first half.
Well, you've got some newfound speed on the outside, and a healthy Curtis Conway and a more mature Curtis Conway. You might think about trying to get him the football. You got a big play guy. See if he can make a big play.
And the pass is incomplete. The intended receiver, Marv Cook, in the coverage with William Thomas in the area. 2nd and 10. And Eric Kramer.
That's Big Cat Williams down on the ground.
Williams is down. The tackle writhing in pain.
He took a couple steps back and then went down.
So an injury timeout with 2 minutes and 7 seconds remaining in the first half. There's an injury timeout with James Big Cat Williams down. You know, by the way, I think we should update the Napoleon McCallum situation. We had that injury, of course, last Monday, and everybody around the country saw it either on Monday night or later on, and it looked terrible. But in a sense, we're happy to report they had surgery on McCallum's artery, the leg artery, a few hours after the game. He is back now in Southern California. He will have an MRI on the knee when the swelling goes down, but he did go to practice the other day to see his teammates. He appears to be, from what we understand, in very good spirits and really wants to thank everybody. He said he got hundreds of calls and letters and telegrams and the rest expressing their support. So good news here for Williams. And, you know, all things considered, for McCallum, we didn't know what we were dealing with last week. I guess that's as good as you can hope for.
And all you do is keep your fingers crossed that the MRI isn't going to show any more damage than you might expect for something that looked as bad as that one did. Maybe it'll turn out to be a pleasant surprise for everybody.
2nd down and 10 from the 32-yard line. And they run a draw, and this is Merrill Hodge up to the 40-yard line, and that's going to take us to the 2-minute warning. 2 minutes left. First down, Eagles 21, Bears the 40-yard line. And William Thomas had an easy interception.
Well, he was thinking end zone.
William Thomas that's exactly what he was thinking.
Well, he makes things happen, though. He is around the football. He's not all that big. Richie Kotite liked him as a rookie so much, and he has developed into one of the fine smaller linebackers in this league. Good on the blitz, good on pass coverage. And he was thinking 6 right there.
He could have made 28-0 happen. That's what he could have made happen.
Here's Chris Gardocki's 6th punt of the game. And he boots it away from Seidner. And it is down at the 31-yard line with 1 minute and 45 seconds remaining in the first half. From the Goodyear Blimp Stars and Stripes team to Jeffrey Lurie. And there is the new owner of the Philadelphia Eagles at age 43. And Jeff, we trust so far, $185 million, the most ever paid for a franchise in any of the 4 major sports.
One thing about Philadelphia, though, they are allowed to change their minds.
Before the end of the game, if necessary. James,
you're assuming, Frank, that was his only $185 million.
Here's Brett Barnett. And he was running, but now he is moving to Philadelphia. Grew up in New England, grew up as a fan of and tried to buy the Patriots, as Frank referred to before.
Do you have a problem with him renting in Los Angeles?
Well, that's not a bad idea, with at least with an option to buy.
No, he's not a homeowner like you, so hey, second-class citizen.
Third down and 2.
He was saving his money.
That's right, the other $185 million.
Fourth ranked defensively, and they have blown that right out of the water tonight. With a lot more time left in this one.
Third down.
There's just coming with a 3-man rush.
And Randall steps up to avoid it and then throws and waits and finds the open man, and the catch is made by Victor Bailey.
That hurts the Bears because now the Eagles will get serious about trying to score some points.
They do this, of course, because of Randall Cunningham, and Dave Wanstead talked about it. One of his defenses against Cunningham. They come with 6 defensive backs.
Remember, the Eagles have just 1 timeout left, so they run the play as quickly as they can, and Calvin Williams makes the catch at the 44-yard line, out of bounds with 44 ticks left in the half.
Every quarterback in the league is judged by how he throws that pattern, the deep sideline pattern, and it's hard to throw the ball any straighter with any more velocity than Randall Cunningham just threw that dart to the sidelines.
He has got a powerful arm. It's like a slingshot, it really is. And one of the problems he's had this year, and maybe throughout his entire career, is maybe taking a little off. He's never been known as a touch passer, was developing into that, but I think he's more concerned, we talked about earlier, about situations like this.
2 flags come in here on this play. Albert Fontenot takes care of Cunningham, but we'll see about the full tackle.
Each of the tackles, and of course the veteran, his gets declined, Broderick Thompson, and they hang it on the rookie, Bernard Williams. Now, talk about the seniority system at its very best in the National Football.
How in the world do you decide which penalty you're going to decline here?
Well, that's Spellman, and he is hog-tied and tackled by Bernard Williams. Now, the one thing about Spellman in that low rush is that'll draw a lot of holding calls. When you get that low, you're giving the appearance of a guy who's being dragged to the ground.
1st and 20 now. 38 seconds left in the half. Randall under pressure. Escapes, throws, incomplete. He was 2nd and 20. Cunningham. Over the middle. He finds the open James Joseph. He takes it to the...
When you look at his record, you've got to say Richie Kotite has done a really darn good job of coaching this football team.
3rd and 9 as Randall throws into the 24. He finds Calvin Williams.
Players coach, but all of a sudden the players had a coach standing up for them in salary negotiation. He missed a couple of days of practice defending them.
Those are huge numbers for Cunningham.
Tremendous. And there's all kinds of activity in the end zone except the flag. Keyshawn Johnson was there. He got tangled up with Fred.
He's playing the ball. He was not.
Now Eddie Murray, a 42-yard attempt is good. Out of the hold of Bubby Brister. Dan, you were talking about Randall Cunningham and the difference he makes for Rich Kotite. And it's pretty clear through the years when Richie has had Randall, he's 15 and 6, and without Randall, 14 and 14.
Talk about that was then and this is now.
From the 34, Hebron. It's wrapped up. Jim Flanagan makes the tackle. Ron Cox appeared to be okay. He went off during the commercial, and Myron Baker is spelling it for the moment, and now Baker will go out, and Cox comes back in. He's fine.
Cox was actually hit by Lester Holmes, the #1 draft choice of last year, who got 25 yards downfield making a block.
That's carrying a load downfield. He goes over 300 pounds.
Who doesn't these days? Hard pressed to find an offensive lineman that is, if he's not over 300, he's sniffing at it.
2nd and 10. Barnett at the 25. Breaks the tackle, picks up extra yardage. 1st down at the 18.
That time it was
Jeremy Lincoln tackle.
Jeremy Lincoln, who missed the tackle, laying off. He didn't get the coverage or the tackle. And the Bears cornerbacks are having a bad night.
Fred Barnett just really did the little shuffle, a sidestep, and Jeremy Lincoln, too much momentum going forward, too low to the ground, and Barnett puts a stiff arm on Sean Gale and goes out of bounds unscathed.
Hebron. He takes it down to the 11-yard line.
Well, since Herschel Walker put the ball on the ground, look at Hebron covering up. Well, that's the classic example of how to protect the football with both arms, taking no chances and still picking up positive yardage. Boy, this game isn't that hard when you pick up 5 yards on first down.
Well, this has to be a very disturbing night for the Bears. Very comfortable with their defense, even though they had lost Steve McMichael and Richard Dent. They felt good about it coming into the season. They're getting mauled tonight.
2nd and 5 at the 11, and a broken play, and Randall just has to eat it back at the 12-yard line.
And Randall wisely goes down. There's no need, and I think Randall that's himself saying, my fault. My fault.
I don't think Richie's going to pull him, do you?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, the Bears defense better find number 89. He's been running free all night.
But if Buddy were here, who knows?
That was then, and this is now.
Buddy Ryan now, of course, the coach of the 0-2 Arizona Cardinals. 3rd down and 5 at the 12-yard line. And Randall stumbles and throws, and Barnett tried to one-hand it at the 2. That would have been the catch of all time.
Buddy's the coach of the Chicago, St. Louis, Phoenix, Arizona Cardinals.
Those Cardinals.
Barnett was open on this move. Randall got his feet in trouble back there. Off balance, tried to get it in. Again, they're working in front of Keyshawn Johnson. A nightmare for the 7th-round draft pick from a year ago. Johnson, who's filling in for Donnell Wolford. You can see the trouble that Randall had.
Yeah, David Alexander, the center, got him on the right foot.
30-yard Eddie Murray attempt is just good, just inside the right upright. Officially goes into the books as a 29-yarder. 9:43 left in the 3rd. 27-0.
Bear fan there.
Yeah.
Where's my pacifier?
He's getting a little tired, but this crowd,
I want my binky.
electric tonight.
The Bears need to stick their head out of that cave we saw them in earlier.
Oh, boy. Yeah, that cave normally comes along in December, not on September 12th. Berger kicks off. Conway from the 12-yard line. Curtis brings it back out to the 33-yard line. Derek Oden makes the stop. He's done a nice job on special teams tonight. Tomorrow night, primetime ABC, a preview of the new comedy On Our Own, right after Full House and Roseanne Ellen and She TV. And then Wednesday, Tim Allen and Home Improvement, sandwiched around the season premiere of Thunder Alley. All American Girl makes its premiere, and Turning Point, the Wednesday night lineup, right here on ABC. 1st and 10 at the 34-yard line. Tillman about 3 up to the 37.
The Eagle fans are applauding the Bears in attempting to run the football. Something tells me that call would have gotten a different reaction from a Soldier Field crowd. There's Steve Walsh, the backup quarterback for the Bears, as we see now in the National Football League, holding his helmet up to his ear to hear the call that's being electronically sent in to Eric Kramer.
Sent down by Ron Turner, the offensive coordinator.
Kramer on a 2nd and 8 hits Merrill Hodge out to the 45-yard line, and he has enough for a first down before Byron Evans stops him.
Hodge, good receiver out of the backfield, as he was for the Steelers for 7 years before becoming an unrestricted free agent this year. Did it all before Barry Foster got there, leading rusher a couple of years for the Steelers, and relegated primarily to a 3rd down back when Barry Foster took over.
8:24 to go, 3rd quarter, 27-0 Philadelphia. Great coverage by the secondary, and if there's negative yardage there and there's a little bit, it'll go in as a sack for William Fuller, and you can credit that to the defensive backfield.
The Chicago Bears tonight down on the field, some of their coaches were talking about the possibility of going to 2-0, being the only team in the NFC Central with a 2-0 record. If they go on and lose this ball game, they fall into a pack that you don't see very often. Every team in the NFC Central will have an identical record. They'll all be 1-1.
Second down and 10 at the 45. Tillman. About 5. Funny thing about the Central, Dan, a lot of people think it's as strong a division as there is in the league this year. There are a lot of teams that could win, that have been prognosticated to win, but through the years, the Central Division has never had a winning record over the course of a season against the outside division opponents. And that goes back to 1977 when the Central Division, as we know it, was created. 20-20 last year. They've never had a winning record against foes outside the division. 3rd and 5. What a night for the Eagles. It just keeps going. Greg Jackson.
And Eric Kramer is left to take care of his own mistake. He's the only guy that keeps it from being an Eagle touchdown.
Well, he looked right at the receiver all the way to his right. He was going for the slant pattern. Greg Jackson had inside coverage. He was not in a man-for-man assignment at all. He was just reading Kramer's eyes. Put that right in stride.
31-yard run back.
Kramer looking all the way. Never saw Jackson. Jackson, not one of the fastest defensive backs around the league, but very heady.
1st and 10 at the 25. 6:52 remaining, 3rd quarter. On a scintillating night for Philadelphia. The catch is made by Joseph, and there's no gain, though, as Joe Kane is right there. 2nd and 10. Philadelphia. I wonder if Jeff Lurie probably feels as if he could have spent $285 million the way his team is playing tonight.
Well, they don't all turn out like this.
Oh, boy. Savor it.
Savor it is exactly right.
Yep, there. And he's got Charles Barkley up there. Look at that. Charles, the former 76er, now the Phoenix Sun.
There's Harry Gamble up there in the booth, the president of the club, and
one of the many VPs. They have a few.
Herschel, stopped by Dante Jones. Well, one thing you can count on, I'm sure that the Philadelphia press or the Chicago press will really understand the plight of the Bears this week, huh? As Dan said to Wannstedt yesterday after reading all the clips, did you guys win or lose against Tampa Bay last week?
Granted, they didn't have a picture-perfect game against Tampa Bay, but they were
21-9.
They were almost abused by the Chicago press, and I dare say they will be abused this time. Alonzo, player to jump. That now goes against the defense. That's a rule change for 94.
It's a 5-yard gain for Joseph to the 15-yard line, and that's enough for a first.
Well, they're going to the crowd wanting the Eagles to go for it on 4th down, and they are.
A little short.
Yeah. Brian O'Neill, their big back, the rookie who goes a good 2:30-35, comes into the lineup. And hardly a big risk on the part of Richie Kotite, leading 27 to scratch.
Oh, the fans love it.
Oh, and the Bears have 12 men on the field.
Yep, and they just get the 12th man off.
Oh, and Randall was trying to hurry it up.
Yeah.
He was trying to run that play as quickly as possible to catch them with 12.
They'll get the first.
Jeremy Lincoln was in a full sprint going off the field.
Our guys catch it all as usual. Here it is.
Jeremy Lincoln there. Look at him sprinting to get off the field. And he just makes it before the snap of the football.
Crowd loved the fact that Randall Cunningham picks up the first down. Dave Wannstedt shaking his head.
He's got a pair of 300-pound guards in Holmes and Davis, both #1 draft choices, a quality center in Alexander, and really good leg strength on Cunningham. Their quarterback sneak is a very effective play.
1st and 10 at the 15.
I don't think they got that off.
Clock had ticked down.
That was a good look at Randall.
A box play if you want.
National security is something that Herschel will handle for him.
Second and 10 now at the 15. And Maurice Johnson, the intended receiver. And one of the few times tonight pressure is put on as Joe Kane got in Randall's face.
One of the few times the Bears have used the blitz tonight, and it was very effective. Randall hurried, didn't have time to deliver the ball.
There were a host of Bears coming right up the middle.
And 59 is Kane.
Zorich gets through there with a good move. That's nothing but a hope and a prayer by Randall. No chance at all.
Third and 10, 2:50 to go, third quarter. Eagles leading 27-0. And Cunningham throws, and it's incomplete at the 10-yard line. Intended for Walker. Dante Jones is there.
I tell you, that was a good read by Randall. Just as he was releasing the ball, he saw Dante Jones coming into where he could have had a chance to pick that ball off, and he just dumped it onto the turf. Randall having a good night.
Eddie Murray comes in for a field goal attempt. Murray, who spent much of his career with Detroit, as Cunningham goes over things with Bratkowski and Kotite. And then Eddie has moved around last year with Dallas. Brister will set it down. It's a 33-yard attempt, and Murray bangs it through. 3 field goals tonight for Eddie Murray. And Philadelphia.
Institution themselves. Down 30-0. It's good, Dan. Thank you very much.
Very, very nice. And maybe provide some fireworks. Berger's kick is taken at the 12-yard line, and Conway brings it back up to the 37-yard line. We have 2:31 left in the third. 30-0.
Alonso looking very reflective on what's happening here tonight.
Tim Worley is in the game to replace Lewis Tillman, the running back, and Kramer throws out to the 49-yard line. Picks up a first down here against softer coverage. Curtis Conway makes the catch. Randall Cunningham over 300 yards last week. Through the 1980s, a 300-yard game would more often than not mean you lost. Tonight, Randall, oddly, a guy who you would think would have had a lot of 300-yard games, hasn't had that many. It's the first time he's had them back-to-back in a 10-year career.
He's had a couple almost rushing.
That's right.
He almost had 300 yards in the first half.
It's the 10th time Randall's had a 300-yard game, only one per season on average. Tim Worley, the ex-Steeler, takes it to the 44-yard line where Bill Romanowski stops him.
Well, if good things can come out of a loss, what the Bears would really like to see is Tim Worley get some good work tonight. He was banged up. He got a separated shoulder, and it really has not had a chance to get a lot of good work. The former #1 draft choice of the Pittsburgh Steelers had some well-documented legal problems, and has really now, I think, he's got an opportunity to really make things happen for the Chicago Bears. Tillman's a good quality back. Worley could be great.
Here's Worley slinging to the outside, picks up a first down. Here comes a flag from the field judge. Mark McMillan made the stop, and holding is the call.
I think what the Bears are rightly concerned about in Lewis Tillman, at his size and the way he runs, whether upright, whether he can be the man for the season, carrying it 20-25 times a game.
Holding, number 80 of the offense. 10 yards, repeat, second down.
Now there's Tillman, and he's just a shade over 200 pounds.
Tough as they come, but I mean, Worley is up there around 230, 235 pounds. He can deliver a lot of punishment.
You know, we talked about it in our preseason telecast of the Bears game. Here we are talking about all the Bear running backs, and we've yet to mention on the telecast tonight Neil Anderson, who has retired in one of the quietest retirements known to man.
Really, for the quality of football player that he was.
Second and 12. Kramer shoots it out to Hodge and off his fingertips.
When you think of Neil Anderson and Walter Payton for 19 years, 7 for Neil Anderson after Walter retired after 12 years. For 19 years, they were the leading rushers for the Chicago Bears. They just didn't think about anyone else. Now they're looking for somebody.
Well, this is an offensive team's, but more specifically, the offensive line nightmare. 30-0. Third and very long, a good dozen yards. nobody has to worry about anything except get to the quarterback.
3rd and 12, and they indicate blitz, but back off a little bit. Townsend chases Kramer, throws back the other way, and finds an open Bob Christian. The backup fullback takes it to the 33, and that's a Chicago first down.
Bob Christian out of Northwestern found his way onto this ball club as a free agent. Does a lot of things, and does a lot of things well.
Played at McClure High School in St. Louis, and I guess playing in Northwestern and then playing for the Bears, you don't even have to move. He might still be staying in the dorm.
First and 10 at the 33-yard line.
Be a great way to save a few bucks.
Yeah.
Kind of like Jeff Lurie renting in California.
Right. And the clock expires
That's
before
the end of the third quarter.
snap.
Third quarter.
End of 3. Thank you very much, Jerry Austin. End of 3. Philadelphia 30. Chicago nothing. Monday Night Football. Back after this word from our ABC station. Get an update from the field and Lynn Swan.
Well, the update from the field, Al, is just what you guys are talking about in terms of the Chicago Bears. There is absolutely no life on that football team. With Philadelphia taking it to them early in the first half, putting a lot of points on the scoreboard and the injuries, there's just no life on the team, and that's hurting their attitude and ability to come back in this ball game. Al?
Well, they were out of it pretty early with the type of offense they've exhibited over the recent past. There's a little flip pass down to Jeff Graham. And as Dan mentioned before, when you fall into a 14-0 hole, as did the Chicago Bears, they may have a revamped offense, and Mike McCaskey, the owner of the team, helping to revamp it and remold it, but this is still a team not suited to come from behind.
Sometimes as a coach, and every coach has experienced a game like this, it just goes so bad you really don't have much choice but to grin and bear it.
2nd and 3 as Tim Worley gets stopped back in the line of scrimmage by the Fridge.
But this is an important quarter for the Chicago Bears in terms of where they go from here. You can't be mauled. You just can't lose your aggressiveness and be pushed around on the football field to the point where you've embarrassed yourself and you've embarrassed your teammates. Frank, I know how it used to be. I know when I played and we were in this position, I had a few teammates, you could guarantee a fight or two on the field. It just happened because you're angry. You're so upset that you're getting beat this badly that you take it out on somebody else in the other jersey. And the Bears have got to show a little spine here in the 4th quarter.
3rd down and 3. Kramer throws, catch made, first down. Conway takes it to the 19.
Conway keeps it alive. I know what you're talking about, Dan. Particularly, we saw it tonight with the Eagles. They took a lot of abuse when they limped out of Giants Stadium last week, losing to the Giants up there, and they came back to horrible abuse here in Philadelphia.
Yeah, the game is lost, but come back, score some points. Get at least something to give this man to work with this coming week and say, hey, look, I know we got blown out. I know we looked bad early, but I'm proud of the way you fought back in the 4th quarter.
Right, we didn't thank you.
Right.
Conway almost. Curtis Conway reaching for it, couldn't hold on. Mark McMillan was the defender.
McMillan with good position on Conway. You got to play tight when you're down around that end zone, and McMillan had good position. That was a well-thrown football by Kramer. He had that right on the fingertips of Conway, who has good speed on the track team at USC. That one he should have caught. When you're a #1 draft pick with all those credentials, you've got to make the big play. Somebody has got to make big plays for Chicago.
People have been waiting for Curtis Conway to come around. He needs to get with it.
2nd and 10. And the catch is made by Graham. Graham gets wrestled down at the 12-yard line. William Thomas dragged him down.
Good strong effort by Graham. He's big, 6'2" and 196 pounds, and carried an Eagle with him almost for a first down.
A receiver from Ohio State. Certainly a difference from the old Woody Hayes era. Got some Ohio State receivers in this league that are doing very well. Chris Carter, that used to play right here in Philadelphia. Another former Buckeye receiver.
3rd down and 2 at the 12-yard line.
The Eagle fans want their shutout.
And they're not going to get it because Gedney makes his third touchdown catch of the season, but there's a marker down at the 19-yard line.
Well, that's a bad place for that marker to be for Philadelphia, or whether for the Bears.
And I think Juan says expression kind of says it.
On the 6,
Yeah.
10 yards. Repeat third down.
James Williams. The big cat is not purring at the moment.
Well, the big cat got whiffed at the line of scrimmage, won an inside move, and had to resort to a tackle. William Fuller beat him inside, and then Big Cat did the only thing he could do to keep his quarterback from getting hit. He just turned and tackled William Fuller.
Greg Townsend avoided a shot at Kramer that could have also drawn a flag. Townsend pulling up. 2 wide receivers back into the game now. We had the 2 tight end offense a moment ago, but Tom Waddle, he's in the slot up at the top of your screen. Dangerous in this situation.
Third down and 12 from the 22-yard line, and Kramer for the end zone, caught by Conway.
Yes.
For the touchdown.
There's a touchdown.
Boy, you like to see him come back. Yep. After one he should have had. This time he made a fine over-the-shoulder reception.
And a guy made a great throw.
Oh, did he?
Kramer did, with a lot of pressure. He had an eagle right in his chops when he asked to throw that thing.
And there was inside-out coverage on Conway. There's Otis Smith. He's got the outside responsibility. He's got help in the inside. He's where he should be. That ball was thrown perfectly as Miano steps into the picture, but that ball was thrown perfectly.
What a nice little hesitation move there by Conway, Frank. He gave a little stutter step that froze Otis Smith, and then with a shifting of gears, he moves past it.
Kevin Butler tacks on the point after, and it's 32-7. He's only the second North Carolina State quarterback to ever throw a pass in the NFL. Now, NC State's had some pretty good teams through the years. The other guy was Roman Gabriel, but no other quarterback beside those 2.
And Gabriel played for so many of his years right here with the Eagles.
Mainly with the Rams, partially here.
I'm glad to see you guys do it to another school other than Michigan. You know, last time you guys sprung a stat on me like that, it was about Michigan.
Wait till we come back.
He's going to take care of his ex-teammates here.
Interesting again. We said earlier, Richie Kotite says it's the best defensive unit I've had since I've been here. They've had some good ones.
30-7, Philadelphia, and they can chew up some of the clock here from the 29-yard line as they begin this drive. And Cunningham gives it to Herschel, and he bangs his way out for a gain of about 8.
Walker getting a few calls tonight, Al. He only carried the ball 7 times.
He has.
In that loss to the Giants.
You know, I was thinking that the new rules that have been put in, the league has to be thrilled with what's taking place. A lot more scoring, more yardage, the kickoff move back, better field position, the 5-yard rule being enforced against the defensive backs, and scoring is up.
Normally, you don't want to make a knee-jerk reaction to a rules change. You say, you know, give me half a season, give me something to see whether or not it's really making a difference. But this is so apparent. Thumbs up to the league for these rule changes. I think they have added a great deal to the game.
Second down and 2 at the 37. James Joseph picks up the first down. One of the rules that I love, I love the 2-point rule. We haven't seen it come into play in either of our games. Funny thing, though, we talk to coaches as we go around, and there's a comparison of the first 27 games last year and this, so we don't include the Monday night game in week 2 of each season. But points are up, TDs way up, and almost 2,000 more yards have been compiled.
And how about people like Andre Rice? 26 receptions, first 2 games. Jerry Rice cracking the record on a week ago. And I'll tell you, that rule that they are enforcing has been there for years now on the defensive backs, where they can't rough up that receiver downfield, is really going to make some different numbers receiving.
Here's Walker for about 5. The 2-point thing, we asked Dave Wanstead last night, if it's the end of the game, do you try to win it with 2, tie with 1? And he told us, I don't send it into overtime. I go for 2. I talked to Richie Kotite before the game. Richie said the opposite thing. The funny thing was, I think a lot of fans might wonder, what would the 49ers have done yesterday had they scored down by 7 toward the end of that game with Kansas City? Well, we talked to George Seifert last week, and he made it very clear, I don't send it into overtime. I go for 2, and that's what they would have done.
With his offensive team, I can't think of a better offensive team in the National Football League to go for 2 with than the 49er offense. with all the weapons they have, plus the mobility of Steve Young, hey, if I'm running the 49ers, I'm not so sure I don't go for 2 on every single play from the 2-yard line.
It still hasn't been absorbed totally by the fans that this is from 2 yards, not from 3 yards, as it is in college.
You know, we also in talking, it's true love is something really special. when you look at the 2-point conversion and the effect that it's going to have here during the course of this season, again, don't get fixated on it being the last play of the game. It comes into play throughout a game's entirety as far as strategy down the road. It comes into play on the first score of the game.
Randall on a 3rd and 1 sneak for a first to the 46.
And then I think it also, at the end of a game, has a lot to do whether you're at home or on the road. I think a coach is more at ease sending it into overtime if he's at home. If he's on the road, we've had a lot of coaches, Al, like you brought it up, have told us, you know what, that's my best shot at winning the ball game on the road in a hostile environment to take my crack at it at the end of the game.
There it is so far. 3 out of 4 successful on the ground, but just 5 of 14 through the air, and 44% overall successful thus far.
Keep in mind, it's only 2 yards. That's why you see a higher conversion rate on the ground. 2 yards isn't that far to go.
James Joseph picks up a couple. 30-7, the Eagles on top with 8:10 remaining.
Another thing for the Eagles offensive unit, they should be getting Charlie Garner back, the 2nd-round draft pick. Fine running back who looked so good in training camp. He's been injured. He'll be back in a few weeks.
Really a freak injury.
Yeah, broke a rib making a cut.
Nobody even hit him. He was just making a move and broke a rib.
James Joseph takes the ball to the 42-yard line as they chew up the clock. Sean Gale makes the tackle. The Goodyear blimp, stars and stripes, providing these scenics on a gorgeous late summer night in Philadelphia. Temperature in the upper 60s at the moment.
Well, with the Eagles looking pretty solid here tonight, the Giants at 2-0, the Dallas Cowboys at 2-0, the Washington Redskins even won last week to get the 1-1. I think it's safe to say that the NFC East is not ready to be declared dead yet as far as a dominant conference in its league.
Joseph, like a pinball, gets knocked down back at the 44 by their top draft choice, John Theory, rookie from Alcorn State.
John Theory, the reason that Richard Dent is no longer a member of the Chicago Bears. Richard Dent's contract was still very much in limbo and in play with the Bears, but then on draft day, Theory is available. The Bears loved him. They took him, and immediately upon drafting Theory, informed Richard Dent that he no longer fits in the Bears' future. And Dent goes to the 49ers and unfortunately gets hurt yesterday. Supposedly is going to have knee surgeries, a scope, and be out 4 to 6 weeks.
Mitch Berger to punt. Fair catch is called for. And Tom Waddle dropped it and then recovers it at the 14-yard line. So the Bears will have it there. 6:09 left in the 4th. Plenty of whacking and cracking and helmet busting this weekend on ABC. Saturday college football regional coverage. Notre Dame, Michigan State, Alabama, Arkansas, and the Bruins of UCLA escaping with a win over SMU, going to Nebraska. 64,890 the crowd tonight at the vet. First down for Chicago with the 15. Kramer tipped, and Waddle can't hold on. It was tipped over the middle. Waddle hasn't played much of a role tonight, but through the years he's been talked about as a blue-collar guy and underappreciated and undersized. And I said to him before the game tonight, I said, do you have any new adjectives we can use about you? He said, yeah, slow.
That's new?
Yeah. Mike Ditka loved this guy, even though they cut him 2 or 3 times, kept bringing him back. Led the Bears in receiving last year, but only 44 receptions. Such was their inept offense.
And Conway with a touchdown.
Well, we talked about the Bears. Could they build on something that happens here in the fourth quarter, and a pair of Curtis Conway touchdowns look like a pretty good place to start.
Took it away from one of the best in the business, Eric Allen. Eric Allen made a play on it. Good concentration by Conway, the second-year first-round draft pick out of USC. Eric makes a play on it, and then no way that Jackson's going to catch him.
No, just man coverage all the way, though, with Eric Allen. He just drifted too far to the outside. It appeared to misjudge the fact that the ball was coming back more to the inside, and
might not have been that respectful either. I mean, he was playing that kind of casually.
Two-point conversion attempt coming up here because the score is 30-13. And Eric Kramer will try to make it a 15-point differential. Seeks the deuce, gets it over the middle. Catch is made there. Conway accounts for all 8 points. And we had put up a graphic before. They've got it. Even though Calvin Williams was signaling the other direction. He was saying, we've got it, but he was signaling in the Bears' direction.
Took a page out of
the ball. 30-15 is the score. Conway 2 touchdowns tonight, equaling his output for all of last year.
You know, it sounds ridiculous with the size of the lead that the Eagles had, but it was a doggone good thing that they covered that onside kick. You know, the Bears were only 2 touchdowns from either tying or winning the ball game with almost 6 minutes left if they would have recovered that onside kick.
Speaking of covering, Conway's can't. Well, never mind.
You're incorrigible. That's all I can say.
Well, you know, got to buzz our friends out there.
At the Bears coming up again, what, October against Green Bay? Eagles we'll see a little later on against the Houston Oilers as we get to know the Oilers.
That spread offense of theirs.
Right. Too bad. 2nd and 5 at the 42-yard line. 145, go! Herschel. 41-yard line.
Time of the game where you're covering up the football, and John Herschel, who does a good job of that anyway. He's put a couple on the ground tonight, but he's pretty safe with the football.
Bears take a timeout to conserve some clock here. 5 minutes remaining in the game. Now they've got about 200 young folks here tonight, and they are part of what's known as AmeriCorps, the new national service program, and there they are. These Philadelphians, along with thousands of others from around the country, were sworn into service today at several events around the country. Tomorrow they'll be in classrooms or walking police beats, earning money to help pay for college. It's a program that Jeffrey Lurie, the owner of the Eagles, enjoying his debut as an owner in a home game, very much a part of.
Not in the foreseeable future, I don't think.
Third down and 4 at the 41. The Eagles stay here. They'll meet the Green Bay Packers, who were beaten yesterday by Miami on Sunday. And the Bears will go home. The Bears will be facing the Minnesota Vikings, who knocked off Detroit. 3rd and 4 at the 41. Walker gets stopped at the 41-yard line. So Chicago takes another timeout. They'll conserve a little clock here.
Fans will still remain. Do not agree with the Chakotay on that call. Well, they're a little vocal about it.
They'll send it down in the air. You know, the Bears go home. They've had some problems at Soldier Field because of the overuse. They had a Grateful Dead concert. They had some college games that preceded their home opener.
Let's see a segue into this.
Yeah, right. We update you on some injuries. Dan talked about Dent with a torn knee ligament, possible surgery. Anthony Carter of the Lions, we would have seen him next week. He's out for 6 to 8 weeks, broken collarbone. We talked about Hampton before, Rodney with a bruised kidney, so he's out for 2 to 3 weeks for the unbeaten Giants. And Eric Moore of the Bengals suffered a broken leg yesterday, and he is out for a month to 6 weeks.
But obviously, the non-weight-bearing bone for Eric Moore would only be out 4 to 6.
The Eagles now will punt as the rookie kicker, Berger,
You know, Al, getting back to that Soldier Field thing, don't they also have a couple concerts this week, the Rolling Stones?
They have a concert tonight, and they likened some of the Bears did the playing surface last week to a municipal golf course. The Eagles will take a delay of game penalty, and we'll see if Chicago accepts it or not.
It's when life is going.
Up to share. Fair catch called for at the 26-yard line by Tom Waddle.
That ball definitely was higher than it was lengthwise. Vertically, that far out distance, it's linear length on the field. That ball went nowhere.
Yeah, it's crashing on Mick Jagger. I mean, senior citizen bopping around there pretty good. I watched him on the MTV Awards the other night.
I don't think that.
Little oxygen between.
I don't think Bob Verdi was insinuating that it was going to be on the stage. I think maybe he was talking about up in the seats.
It's a great line.
It is a good line. It is a good line. And the Rolling Stones tour, a huge success.
Bears at the 27-yard line. They're down by 15.
When they were in New York, a couple friends of mine went to it, just loved it.
And the pass is a little underthrown and behind Marv Cook.
Couldn't get a ticket, frankly. Your producer, Kenny Wolf, took that in, too, out of Giant Stadium.
Got a flag here, and we've got
95. 15 yards.
15-yard penalty against William Fuller. Shot to the head here. Bud Carson looking on. Well, you know, I mean, weirder things have happened. It's a 15-point lead. I'm not suggesting that Bears could do it, but mathematically, with a 2-point conversion.
Boy, that's his hands do hit the head, but that's, you know, William Fuller's being blocked into him by Big Cat Williams, the right tackle. You can see where the call comes from, but I don't think in any way was that intentional by William Fuller.
From the 42. Kramer over the middle, wide open. Cook, all of a sudden, he's at the Philadelphia 38-yard line.
Is that Marv Cook's first catch tonight? Or his second?
That is number 1.
That's number 1, so that's his first catch as a Chicago Bear then.
He's gone to him a couple times tonight. He had, of course, had that bulging disc in his neck. And they just had to wait till he got ready. He has great hands. Big numbers of New England before coming to the Bears.
4-10. Kramer had to call this play without a huddle, and already the play clock though is down to 14. And there is Cook again. He's at the 17. And folks, there may only be about 20,000 left here, but all of a sudden, the Chicago Bears are down by 15. 3:50 to go, and they are deep in Eagle territory.
And we can see Marv Cook again until they cover him as somebody other than a linebacker. He's just running free right down the middle.
At the 16-yard line, Eric Kramer throwing, and there's Cook for a touchdown.
Hello, sports fans. Now it is a 9-point lead. The chart says if you're trailing by 9, you go ahead and kick the extra point.
Well, what was a celebration tonight, and everybody has already left for home, most of the crowd here, we have a game.
3 straight completions to Marv Cook, who had a couple of big years up in New England before coming this year to the Bears as an unrestricted free agent.
Here's Butler for the point after.
So the Bears going by the book, attempt to make it an 8-point game.
Right.
And they do.
Well, and the Bears have 1 timeout, and they have a 2-minute warning, and we'll probably see an onside kick. And Eric Kramer hooks up with his new favorite receiver. He loves those tight ends. Gedney, 2 touchdown catches last week, and would have had 1 tonight without the penalty, and now Cook here.
Cook had 82 receptions a couple of years ago in New England and dropped off.
People tuned out, obviously, 30-0, and went to bed. And they elect not to make the onside kick here. Seidner is run down at the 32-yard line.
And I think that's a smart play.
Yep.
I think that's a very smart play, not going for the onside kick.
If the Bears can win, and Austin with another flag down. The flag is
Offsides on the kick.
1980. The greatest that people remember, of course, was Buffalo against Houston in the wild card game a couple of years back, 32 points. And this one, well, if the Bears somehow pull this out, it would be the greatest comeback in regular season history in 75-year history of the National Football League.
The thing you tend to do if you are the Eagles is to get very conservative at this point. What they really need to do is go back and play this game the way they were playing in the first half through the third quarter.
From the 32-yard line, 1st and 10, Philadelphia.
Beautifully executed.
2nd and a short yard, and they give it to Johnston, and Moose gets the short yard and about